Hi everybody, welcome back to Historical Art and Design. I wanted to make a few videos. This will be the first in a series about the written assignments that will be due for this class. So this video is about the Art and Survival assignment, sometimes also called the Post-Apocalyptic assignment. I have all of the assignments have little blurbs on page 5 of the syllabus, which you can see here on the screen. But we're going to go over to a slideshow to discuss things with images. So bear with me as I switch over. This assignment asks you to select 3 works of art in a world that is undergoing some kind of apocalyptic situation. Perhaps not so hard to imagine at this moment. And the 3 works of art that you choose will be what is left of the visual experience, the cultural visual experience of humanity after. So the one catch, and I feel badly that I pulled this image as the first one that we're looking at, because it wouldn't be valid for our class because it was taken in 1865 by a photographer named Alexander Gardner, who was in Richmond, Virginia after the Union soldiers had marched in. The Confederate Army had marched out and destroyed everything they thought would be useful to the Union Army in the city, which means that they destroyed a good portion of the commercial areas of Richmond, Virginia, including this flour mill. So that is what we're looking at. But the image was just too good to not use for this class and for this assignment. But that's the catch. You will select 3 works of art in the period of time that this class covers. So from prehistory to 1840, mid-19th century is kind of where I'm going to draw the line. So I will be in touch with each of you to ask you for your selections of 3 works of art. So start thinking about them now. But they do have to fall within the period of time that this class covers. You would save them from destruction based on their significance to the trajectory of the art world and for their ability to do something important, say something important about art to the future of humanity. It's a big task, right? So you will be doing a description of the work and also a short paragraph on why the work would have social and historical context that would be important to pass on to the rest of the world. The report should be approximately 750 words. That's about 3 pages. There'll be 2 paragraphs per work. It will be uploaded to Go Studio, and it is 15% of your total grade. I'm going to give you 2 suggestions right now. The first is, there is nothing in this assignment that says you can't pick your friend's artwork or your art. Well, actually no, because I have the mindset of the past class, because if you've taken the modern to contemporary art and design, this assignment also is given in that class. But you can't choose your own work because none of you made work in the mid-19th century. But I would choose work that is relatively well known so that you can kind of go on a website and read something about it. So yeah, no contemporary artwork, none of your own artwork. And the second suggestion that I will make is that, well, it's more of a requirement. You have to write paragraphs in a document like a Microsoft Word or a Google Doc or a Pages, whatever writing software you choose. It has to be a document. It cannot be a slideshow. It cannot be a PowerPoint. It is something that has to be a formal essay. And I'm going to stick to that. I'm saying that because every year people turn in slideshows, and every year I give them back and say, you have to rewrite this. So don't turn in a slideshow. Okay. When you're thinking about what artwork you will choose, think about things like, is there something innovative about this work that makes it important to art history? Is that an aesthetic innovation? Is there something about this thing that remarks on history or culture? Is there something about this work that added to the way we think about the visual experience? And is there something about this work, that will help humanity in the future? So those can all be sort of some of the ways in which you reckon and kind of process, why would I choose this particular work for this assignment? Every time I assign this paper, I go through the same process in my mind and pick 3 new works. So I haven't chosen these before, but I am now. So if I were to do this assignment too, I would choose for my first work this sculpture, 3-dimensional object. It is from ancient Egypt, from the New Kingdom. It is a sculpture of the pharaoh Hatshepsut, who was, we all know Cleopatra as this very important pharaoh, but Hatshepsut was one of her predecessors, and perhaps much more significant in terms of her contributions to ancient Egyptian society. And there's just something about the color of the stone, the way that her body is formed, the way the nemes or her hairdress sort of flows on her shoulders, the way and her arms would have been sort of up facing to receive gifts. This would have been a statue in a temple that would have been in honor of the pharaoh after her death. There are hieroglyphic markings on the throne that talk about her and her accomplishments. So aesthetically, I just find it an incredibly appealing piece that conveys power, that assigns Hatshepsut all of the markings of the pharaoh in this particular case because of the headdress. But it also, I think, just is a beautiful thing. I love the way that she's sort of one with this throne. The next work that I would choose is this print. It's one of a series of 36 prints, Views of Mount Fuji, by the artist Hokusai from the Edo period in Japan. I'm just sneaking into the time period because this work was done in the 1830s, and it was part of a series of works that featured this mountain in the background. This is Mount Fuji, showing scenes of life in Japan, and quite frankly, just this incredible force of nature, this great wave, which is now quite famous. And I find it kind of ironic that even though this wave and its spray and its power and its volume and its ability to be destructive, you can see these kind of cowering fishermen in their boats underneath the wave. That's not really even the focus or the subject of the work. The subject of the work is Mount Fuji here in the background. So this play on what is important, what are we focusing on in an object, I think is really interesting. Also, historically, this moment was sort of a really thriving period for printmaking in Japan, and it's just one of the areas that has always been kind of exceptional to me. So I would think about also in suggesting that this work should be saved for the future, that perhaps it would be able to kind of communicate with people a process of printmaking that could then be revived, restored, reworked, excuse me, for the future. The third work that I would pick is a fresco painting. It is in Italy, in Florence, in a convent, and in the refectory of a convent. That is the dining room of a convent. The subject matter appropriate for a dining room is the Last Supper, a story from the New Testament, and specifically the moment where Christ announces to his apostles that one of them will betray him, and that betrayer, Judas, is literally seated on the other side of this table. And for all of the religious significance of this that actually drives a lot of the content of Italian Renaissance artwork, it's actually not why I would choose this. There are two reasons, and the most important for me is that in this time where we're not used to seeing abstract work in the mid-15th century, there is about this painting the way that Andrea del Castagno, who's the artist, painted this space, and specifically these 6 marble tiles that are above all of the heads of the apostles, and just the incredible abstract way in which these slices of stone have been depicted. To me, they are abstract paintings worthy of, being at any museum of contemporary art now, and yet they were made several centuries ago, and I think also very specifically interact with this space. Now, another reason I would pick this painting to talk about for this assignment is that it's kind of this obsessive interest in the device that was codified in the 15th century, one-point perspective, the way in which artists sort of understood how to create 3-dimensional space on a 2-dimensional surface. Andrea del Castagno, you can see all of the lines in this painting are converging on this invisible vanishing point in the center, but there's a kind of obsessive control of space, which while based on a kind of mathematical rule, creates something that is highly unreal. I find it just an absolute fantastic image. And so that's the third work that I would pick for this assignment. So the actual mechanics of the thing, right? You have chosen your 3 works. You've thought about why you've chosen them. Now what? You're going to write 1 paragraph for each thing that tells me the title, the artist, the medium, the date, the size, and any other piece of information that conveys what the thing is and what it looks like. This is description, and this is important, and it might seem basic, but actually it's really important to be able to do this well, to write clearly and smoothly and convincingly about what a thing is. That's a huge deal. Like, to translate the visual experience into the written experience is already like a huge shift. So I want us to just be really good at sort of spending time and writing clearly and cleverly what it is that we see. So each of your 3 works will have a paragraph that is description. Then each of your 3 works will also have a paragraph that describes why you chose this work. Is there a personal significance to you? You just like it. Fine, that's great. That's not a paragraph. You need to explain a little bit more. The cultural significance, the historical significance. Did the artist have a particular role in their society? Was there something innovative about the printing technique or the fresco technique or the sculpting technique? And is there a message in that for the future? So while I'm telling you that this is not a research assignment, I certainly wouldn't mind if you said, okay, I want to know a little bit more about this print. So I'm going to go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art's website. The Met owns an edition of 36 views of Mount Fuji, and it has in its collections page a reproduction of the work. They also have all of the object details that will be useful to you if you decide to write about something like this, all of the I guess we would call it ID information. But then you could also go over here and listen to a little bit of an audio clip about the work that might help you think about why you think it's important.
This print is known as the Great Wave, but its subject is actually the tiny mountain you see in the distance. That's Japan's sacred Mount Fuji. In Japan, there is a long tradition of celebrating famous sites and pictures called Meishoe. And Mount Fuji, the most beautiful and most revered mountain in Japan, is a favorite subject.
So that's an example of sort of how you're getting information. Anytime you do this, though, if you're going to a website for context and information, you will need to cite that because you're using someone else's ideas and words in your writing. So we'll talk about that in a separate assignment. But I just wanted to let you know that it's not a bad thing to go and look on the web to websites that you trust and know about a sculpture like the Hatshepsut. Or, for example, there's this funny website about sort of hidden artworks in Florence. And here is, for example, the image of the room where this fresco of the Last Supper by Andrea del Castagno was. This refectory and this convent was closed to the public for a really long time. So this work wasn't seen by the public when it was new and when it was freshly done. It was never meant to be seen by the museum-going public. So it has lived a very private life and is not necessarily one of the main tourist attractions in Florence now. So anyway, these are all things that you can go look at online and valid ways of kind of organizing your thoughts about how you're going to write this assignment. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that gets you closer to understanding sort of the shape of this assignment. If you have any questions, email me. And remember, this is not due until October 18th at midnight. However, I want you to start thinking about what works you would choose. Okay, cheers.